If you would like to listen to this podcast, please press 1. How you doing, David?
Good. Was that your AI impression?
That was my AI impression.
It was terrible.
It was pretty terrible, but I'm like, how else am I going to start out this podcast with David than a terrible impression of AI? So,
Well, I could tell right away that you were a human. So,
oh well, yeah. I can't fake it. Sorry, but it's a decent lead-in. Well, a terrible lead-in to our discussion today. We're going to be talking about AI chatbots and AI callbots. So this has been a big discussion on a lot of the forums, and interestingly enough, I see a lot of micro vendors. I call them micro vendors. It's not like you see like a large vendor offering this big service. You see a lot of smaller companies or one guy shows starting their own chatbot, primarily for answering phone calls. And I'm like, I started looking last summer, and I started examining some of the ones that inspectors were using. A couple of smaller vendors in the industry, they're like, oh, hey, have me on the show, or let's do this or that. And I really wanted to just kind of feel things out first. I tried to keep an open mind, but the more I got into it, the more my thoughts narrowed. And I specifically asked you, David, not to tell me your opinion before the podcast. And I think you're probably getting an inkling of what my opinion is. But what are your thoughts on the whole concept of it, first of all, before we get into some nitty gritty?
Well, I mean, it feels like it's fairly new. Of course, it's not really, but it's really been booming with AI lately. So, I do feel like this past year, we have had a lot of people asking our chat support in the app, like, is this AI? And usually it's not a good thing when people think it's AI. I mean, we have one of our support people that we call an AI because she always gets mistaken for an AI, and usually users are like, I want to talk to a real person. So yeah, to me it feels like the impression AI is given so far is probably not a great one.
Yeah, and this is a shout out to Kim. Kim, your support is so good that you get mistaken for AI all the time. I forget we turned her name and Kim into an acronym for some AI chatbot, but it's true. Whenever people ask if she's AI, which she's not, she's a real person, it's usually in anger. It's usually upset. Like, I forget what the one guy did. He just kept typing real person or something weird. Like he's, and Kim's like, I really don't know how to tell you I'm a real person here, but it usually doesn't have a great connotation. I can see the appeal though. First of all, a lot of times we follow convention. So whatever is ubiquitous, we think is also acceptable in our industry. So for instance, if I call Walmart, which I had to do, I think we were ordering sandwiches, I have to go through 15 different AI bots. And by the time I'm done, I didn't order the sandwiches because it's annoying. We had to do a chat bot because our order was missing. And the chatbot on the website was annoying to get through, and you couldn't, no matter how many times you type in human agent, it would not give you a human agent. We see it everywhere. So naturally, because it's ubiquitous, I love that word ubiquitous. It makes me feel smart. It's like a $10 word, right? Like integradodal.
I mean, it's $10 the first time you use it. Every time you use it, it loses value.
It does lose value because it becomes ubiquitous.
Okay, cut.
Cut. It's like somebody told me Occam's razor. And they're like, well, think about Occam's razor. I'm like, whoa, I think Occam's razor is an oversimplification. Sorry. All right, corny jokes aside. But we think because everybody else uses it that we should. Because every website, you almost never find anybody that has a chatbot on a website where you actually talk to a human first. We went the other direction for a very specific business reason. It's harder, but we specifically at ITB do not use any AI. And when you chat with somebody, you're chatting with a real person. When you're emailing somebody, emailing us, you're emailing a real person. Because Is it a tool? Yeah. Do we use it to say, hey, here's a complex issue. Can you look through our knowledge base and give me a good solution? Yeah, all the time. It's a tool in the belt of the human, but it doesn't replace them, in my opinion. Yeah, you like my tool belt drop there? It never works
Yeah,
with the two of us on a podcast. It's just we're too weird together.
it's hard. It's hard to keep it serious.
It
But
is.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And yeah, except for the one time where you sent an email to a user and you used AI to get the answer and forgot to cut out the, hey, here's the answer.
No, so I wrote out the email and I put it in ChatGPT because you had just been making fun of me because I leave so many errors in my emails. So I said, ChatGPT, please check my email and make it better. And I did. I left a little bit at the bottom and said, if you would like us to change this answer or adjust it, just let us know.
But that really shows one of the points. So I did, I did a bit of research on the subject, and one thing that was brought out a lot is don't make AI your only tool. Proofreading, you can have AI do it, but you might still want to check what the AI puts out there.
Yeah. Well, I did some research too, and I want to give my own personal research, but here's some, professional corporate level research because I love corporate research. When you have like individual organizations, their research is a little wimpy. When you have a lot of money on the line, a corporation is going to do the most thorough research possible. They'll give a whole department and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars sometimes, into figuring something out. So, a Variant study found that 77% of consumers became frustrated when they can't reach a human agent. This is both on, a chat and also a phone call. And they're two distinct things, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Many report that phone menus and AI voices waste their time. A Pew Research Center study showed that more than 60% of respondents dislike interacting with AI over the phone due to a lack of empathy, more importantly, clarity, and the inability to handle complex issues. Another point was brand damage. A CGS study reported that 52% of customers said a bad experience with an AI phone bot made them less likely to do business with the company again. So you know what I'm never doing with Walmart ever again? Ordering
Christmas.
sandwiches. They have amazing subs. I don't know, the local
Right?
Walmart here just has really great subs. I've been to other Walmarts. I'm like, why is the one at this one really good? And so we're trying to order subs. Near impossible because the chatbots just get things wrong or it's just too annoying. So I'm going to go to a lesser grade sub for a party because of AI. So the brand damage, in my opinion, is the worst part. We spend a lot of money building up a brand. Those are realistic numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna, without saying any names, I called at least two of the companies that provide AI services in our industry. The one was very interesting. He was selling me pretty hard on the AI phone service. And I'm like, well, okay, what about this or what about that? And he's like, no, it does awesome. We get 200 phone calls in a month in my company, and we're sealing the deal on 80 of them. And he just mixed that in this long sales pitch, and at the end I go, hang on a second, what's your close rate? And he's like, well, this and that. And I'm like, no, you said it was like 80 something. It wasn't exactly 80 something out of 200 phone calls. And I'm like, I need some exact numbers here, man. And so he gave me the exact numbers. It was less than half. And these were hot leads. Like, he has an established company, 20, 30 years of business. People only want him. And so that's what he said. He's like, well, I was able to close that many. I'm like, that's not a lot. That's a terrible close rate. Like, even the worst salesman can close less than half. I've worked my whole career to get into the 90% close rate. And I'm like, okay, well, the average person, that seems like a raw deal. The average lead costs us a ridiculous amount of time and money. So if we spend, we should know our acquisition costs per client. If we spend $50 per client in acquisition costs. That's all the time that we spend pounding the pavement, building relationships with agents, printing cards, spending money on ads, SEO or website and all this stuff. Like if I lose 100, I'm not saying that I gained 80 clients. I'm going to say that I lost 120. I mean, what's 50 times 120 there, David? 50 times
6,000. Oh,
six.
sorry. 6,000.
Not only did I lose the value of those inspections, but I also lost $6,000 on top of that. So let's say at the low end, 500 times 120. So altogether, $66,000. Not to mention the brand damage. How many agents had 3 of their clients call and they're like, the guy just has an AI chatbot, and then the agent stops referring you and you don't know why. His thing was, it's like, well, those are the clients I don't want. And I'm like, that seems like a broad accusation. Like, we say that about price shoppers, like those are the clients you don't want. In what context do we not want the client that just doesn't want to talk to an AI bot? Like what? I don't understand what market research says that they're a bad client.
Yeah, usually that would be older people, I'd say. I think younger ones probably have more of patience for an AI. And older buyers are probably good buyers because young ones don't always have the money.
Yeah, so exactly. I think the opposite would be true, right? I mean, I see there. I don't have any hard numbers on, but either way,
that's just me speculating.
Yeah, that's just. But it makes sense. It made sense as you said it. But man, those are some lousy numbers. So now, if you take the study of the average of that we talked about, 77%, 60%, and 52%. I mean those numbers kind of jive. We lose a lot for a little bit of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go from like answering the phones yourself to a secretary or even a call center, your close rate goes down from like 97% to 92%, depending on who you use. Sometimes maybe even high 80s. But if it drops below 50%, that's a lousy funnel. That's a loss of money. So that's big company stuff. 200 inspections a month is not going to be your average small to mid-range home inspection company. So I don't know why big companies would use it, but even with small companies, say we're doing 200 inspections a year. Can you imagine losing 120 inspections? I mean, that would put that company out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever called one for a home inspector and talked to one of the... Yeah, I did. It's about as bad as I expected. It's just like, I'm like, hey, there's a crack in my foundation. Will you guys look at that? And then it'll give me some information about foundations. And I'm like, yeah, but does the inspector get into the crawl space? And again, some more generic information. It can't do anything mildly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It can give me pricing. So really, it only takes a lead where somebody was already going to schedule with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only time that a chatbot actually works, in my opinion. So there's my overall opinion of the phone one. I think it's probably, quite possibly, the worst way to schedule. You know what the other reason is? Is it can't seal the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the worst things you can do for a funnel, and a funnel is just a colloquial term we use for how we capture the person at the top and convert them into a client at the bottom. The worst thing you can do for a funnel is drop the person in in the new funnel. So and technology will get better, but until AI is good enough that we could have just general conversations with it with no pause and have it be very high end, which we're still a decade or two away from that. It's coming fast, but it's a long ways away. It's going to have to drop you in a new funnel. Because I can't say to it, I'm like, hey, can you put me down for the 5th at 2 p.m. for a home inspection, wood destroying insect, and a radon test? It's going to say, I can't help you with that, what's your phone number? And I'm going to text you a link where you can schedule. Now I have to start a whole new funnel.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to lose clients that way too.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, until the AI gets so good at not sounding like an AI that you can't tell the difference, that's probably the point where it will be worth it. Because, you know, I've used chatbots quite a bit, and it's pretty amazing how far they can get in a conversation. But that's not what you experience when you do talking to them and having a very specific conversation about a subject. I think they're better at general ideas than specific items. Just because I think part of the problem lies in that they're trying to cover for every eventuality, and they don't excel at something specific because of that.
Yeah, and they're getting better. But you're right. It needs to be, we need to have not AI but AGI. So for those who don't know what AGI is, AI is artificial intelligence, AGI is artificial general intelligence. It's what they consider the next level up. So AGI is the next step. AGI is where artificial intelligence can react. Right now it computes. So it says, okay, he said this, and it's still a large language model. So it starts to create word associations and to say, this is what it would want. This is what this person would want to hear. And that's why we still get wrong information from AI and just about general stuff. A lot of people don't realize this, but even ChatGPT doesn't have an internal calendar. Start asking ChatGPT when things happen, and it will give you the wrong dates and times. So I just found this out the other day because I was asking ChatGPT, I'm like, what day is it today? And it kept giving me the wrong day, and I go, no, that's not it. And it just kept guessing until it finally got the day. And I'm like, why are you getting the days wrong? It says, oh, I'm not. And then I kept asking the same questions. And it goes, well, I technically don't have an internal calendar. So unless you tell me what day it is, I won't know what day it is. And I'm like, and you're supposed to be booking inspections. Yeah, it's artificial. Artificial general intelligence would, and there's all sorts of estimates. Some people are like, oh, within 5 years. In reality, 10 to 20, where I can start to really talk to you and say, let's see. Yeah, today's the 5th. Oh, okay. Yeah, we can take care of that on the 7th. 7th is Friday, right? Oh, wait, we see something in the calendar for the inspector, and it can really start to reason on things and do it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think...
Yeah, but the problem is that's the point where they start killing us too.
True. I did see a couple documentaries on it. Terminator 1 and 2. It doesn't really get better for us. So it at that point, it's going to be a whole new industry anyways. 10, 15, 20 years from now. I say a whole new industry. It's going to be a whole new world. It's going to be different. Just as different as 2020 was from 1990. 2040 is going to be a whole new world. The internet will be different. How we go about the internet will be different. The internet will just be a backstaging area for the front-facing AI that we'll use. So I do think there is, and I hate saying this, but not for me, but for some, there is a slight, tiny advantage to AI chatbots on the website, not phone call. Phone call is one big, flat, nasty, poo-poo disaster. It is, in my opinion, it would be the ruination of just about anybody, even the best ones out there. Now, the chatbots on your website, I don't know your thoughts on this. Let me ask you first. What are your thoughts on the chatbot on a website before I give you mine?
I mean, if it's trained right, the availability is a huge bonus because no one can sit there 24/7 watching chats. Even as hard as we try, we can't hit that. A chatbot will always be there, and if it's trained right, it can probably answer a lot of questions without any input from the human.
And that's the thing. A lot of us like to plug and play when it comes to chatbots. Like, oh, we got an AI chatbot for our website, and we give it some basic information, and then we get upset at it when it gives wrong information to our clients. I saw one earlier today, and I forget the exact information that it gave that was wrong, but it gave a service that the inspector didn't provide and blatantly didn't provide. That was for a commercial inspector. And it's like, well, okay. And then it didn't mention services that it did provide. So it obviously didn't have the model, that inspector didn't have the model trained properly or thoroughly enough. And it's easy to say, oh, just take it from my website. It's not that simple. I mean, we build websites for home inspectors all the time. Do you know how many home inspectors are like, Ian, I don't see sprinkler system inspections on my website, and I will search every email that they've ever sent us, every transcript, everything. I'm like, we don't see anything where you mention that you do sprinkler inspections. Oh, I must have forgotten. Yeah, can you put that on there? And it's like, if we forget to do that on our website or somewhere, are we really putting everything that we need to into the chatbots? You know, the one advantage is I think there's less of an expectation to have an actual human when somebody lands on your website. I expect to have an AI chatbot when I land at first, and then I'll just start off by saying human agent. So the reason I say it does have its place is, like you said, no one can be watching 24/7, and it buys you a bit of time. If I'm in a crawl space looking at a rotted beam and I don't feel my phone buzz right away, and then I climb out of the crawl space, it might be 3 minutes later, I don't know. That chatbot might have bought me enough time to say, hey, this is Ian. I'm a real human. How can I help you? Or if we have hopefully a secretary or some sort of answering service, it buys them a minute to be able to do that. So there are some advantages, but there was a couple facts about that. In fact, Zendesk found that 60% of users say they prefer a human over a chatbot for customer service, especially when issues are complex or emotionally charged. Now, Zendesk is one of the leaders in website chats. They do a whole ticketing system. It's one of the biggest out there. And even they say, listen, only 40% of your clients are going to be okay with this. Not satisfied or thrilled, but they'll be okay with it. 60% say they prefer the opposite. A user-like survey found that 68% of users feel that chatbots waste time, and that's not what people want when they're hiring a home inspector. You know, if statistically, we've said many times on this podcast that if you miss the phone call, you've just cut your chance of getting that inspection down by 80%, because people are time pressed and they're pressured, and they're just calling, getting a home inspector. So now if they think it's a waste of time when they go to your website and a chatbot, it may buy you a minute or two, or it may just lose you a lead, to be perfectly frank. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, David?
No, it's true. I do feel like most home buyers they will just keep going down the list. One doesn't pick up, like, okay, I'll move on to the next one. The only time when that doesn't happen is in markets where there's literally no competition, and it's like you're the one trick in the town of a few thousand.
Well, and I think that's where the one guy who had the chat service, the AI chat service, he was making the point. He goes, well, I've been in business for 20, 30 years, so people are only going to hire me. I'm like, that's great, but if you've been in business for 5 years and you're trying to grow your business, you're just losing it. You're losing leads. At this point in the game, I feel like if people call you and they get a human, or they chat with you on the website and it starts out with, hey, my name is Ted and I'm a real human. How can I help you? I feel like that's a marketing advantage.
I mean, sounds like something an AI would say, though.
That's true. So did you read how linguists are finding that we as human beings are changing how we talk to match how AI talks and not the other way around. We're actually meeting in the middle. So now you can read something and it's like, oh, that sounds AI generated. Over the past couple of years since AI has really taken off, we've gotten used to that way of speaking because we see it everywhere. See it in news articles and social media posts. And so now we're actually changing our linguistics to sound like ChatGPT and and other like Gemini and all them. And then AI is changing itself to meet us in the middle somewhere. That's creepy, dude.
That's sad.
I don't know if it's sad. I mean, AI has perfect grammar, so
Yeah.
how bad can it be?
Yeah. Yeah, we need to work on that with you.
Yeah. But
It's not your grammar, it's your inattention to detail.
my inattention to grammar. Grammar has never been my strong point. So I just think that's interesting of how much society has accepted it. I actually kind of think about that. You speak 3 languages, David?
I mean,
Ish.
two that I'm comfortable with. One that I dabble in.
I used to speak 3. Now I'm like, I speak 1 and 1.9 languages. But you know that language is deeply rooted in our thinking process. Like you just don't learn to say a new word and it just doesn't transliterate. You have to change how we think when we speak because it's a whole different thought process.
Yeah.
So
especially with some certain languages, it's like way like Germanic languages overall. It's a pretty similar thought pattern, but some languages you have to completely change your thought patterns to be able to speak that way.
well, yeah. So I was watching the video and they were transliterating Chinese, and they're a very, I'm guessing, judging by this video I watched, they use a lot of expressions, and we do too. We use a lot of idioms in English that don't make sense, and it's like, whoa, okay, well, you can't transliterate that. It's a whole different thought process, and there's other languages like that. Just so when ChatGPT or in other AI models, they change the way we think when they change our language. It's not a matter of changing just the words we say or the sentence structure. It's how we think. That's pretty deep. But as that progresses, I think things like chatbots and stuff like that will become a little bit more universally accepted. I do think for the next 10 to 20 years, it will give us an advantage still if a real person answers the phone. Even the fact that, so there's a home inspector that I was helping optimize his funnels and his services. He's like, Ian, I'm dropping people. And I'm like, he's like, what's doing it? I'm like, it's usually not one thing. It's usually like 30 small things, and you remove them one at a time and your numbers eventually go up. One of the things that made his numbers go up dramatically is when you called him, the phone didn't ring. It automatically went to a menu operator and it said, hey, you've reached so-and-so at such and such inspections. If you'd like to schedule an inspection, press 1. If you'd like to talk to the inspector, press 2. Any other questions, press 3. And I'm like, okay, let's monitor that. Most people never got past when they said press number and they stopped. I'm like, you created a barrier to that person hiring you. You had a hot lead and you killed it. I'm like, where do those numbers go? He's like, well, they all basically go either to me or my office person. I'm like, why are there 3 options? I'm like, can it go to your office person? And then if they need you, she can just transfer the call. He goes, oh, and his numbers went up. So the more we can have a live, warm person answer the phones, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
With the chatbot on the website, I don't know.
You just reminded me of a job I had done in Georgia. This woman I was working with, whenever she did phone calls, I was just sitting in my office laughing my head off because she start like right as soon as they pick up, she start yelling operator, like full volume, top of her lungs, operator, and it's like nonstop. I'm like, you know what? The way that comes across on the other end, they probably can't understand what you're saying. So she didn't get an operator.
But that just shows
Yeah.
we have to put ourselves in our customers' positions. There
Mm-hmm.
are businesses now that I will never use. There's a business now that I'm using, but they're the only one that I can use. And they use a chatbot. So I just find myself typing human agent, human agent, human agent, human agent, until finally I get a human agent. I power through the annoyance. But if there was anybody that came on the market that did the same thing, or even something relatively close, but I could talk to a human, I would immediately switch. And I love tech. I love AI. But at the same time, I'm like, I just have one question, and AI is not going to understand. And then you'll acquiesce, and you'll be like, okay, let me try, and then it doesn't get it, and you're like, ugh. But if you're listening to this episode and you're thinking about using AI, think about those numbers. I like to A/B test everything. It does take a little bit of extra effort, but listen, have half your phone calls go right to a real person, and then transfer half your phone calls to AI and compare. How many people? No, I mean, listen, you need to really do some thick testing, like how do males respond differently than females to the AI? What about a different tone of voice? What about a different this and that? What if they use this AI model instead of that AI model? What about the time of day? Those kind of things. But at the end of the day, you end up losing leads. I will say this. What are your thoughts, David, on maybe just after hours having AI answer your phones? And I'm talking after hours, like not like 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm talking like late at night. Like somebody calls at 3 in the morning and they're never going to answer, and they get an AI service.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it working, um, because I'm pretty sure that at that time of day they probably won't get anyone else.
Yeah.
So you might not be losing leads, but then again, some people might still just hang up automatically, and they might rather just leave a voicemail than deal with an AI.
Yeah. And some of the most phone calls that we get anyways is between the hours of 5 to 8 p.m. And so we have an answering service for it. But so still wouldn't use it for that time period. I still think even the worst call center is going to be better than AI. So
Mhm.
if their hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., I would totally take advantage of that. I'm just talking like 10 p.m. stuff. Like you said, nobody else is going to be answering hypothetically. But something to think about.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on either of those AI uses, either chatbot or phone call bot?
No, um, I think the situation could be different if it was a different field, but specifically home inspections. I think it's too many people are so invested. It's a big investment that they're doing, so they don't want to fool around with with trying to explain it to an AI. And like I've I've had places where I call in and get an AI, and it's not a big deal. But something like that really matters for you and can affect your life for a long time to come.
Yeah,
Probably not going to risk it with an AI.
I think that's really insightful. From the perspective of a home purchaser calling somebody, I can deal with AI to order a sandwich at Walmart. But if I'm going to be buying a car, like let's say I'm buying $100,000 car, which I personally would never do, I'm not going to go through a bunch of prompts and hope that the car comes with all the features that I want. I'm going to want to talk to a salesperson. I'm going to want to talk to a human. And then I'm going to want questions. I'm going to want his feedback, his thoughts on things.
And
That's
then they rip you
insightful.
off.
Yeah, and then they rip you off. Uh, but no, I think that makes a lot of sense. The expectation in our industry is different. You want to ask questions. You want to get a feel. The average person is trying to get a feel for us when they hire us. We're a critical part of their transaction. Just like you wouldn't hire a real estate agent, you know, by going through prompts. Would you like Ken? Press 5 and you get Ken. It's like, I don't know Ken. who's Ken? Is he going to be a good agent? I have no idea. So I think that's insightful. Well, there's our opinion. The statistics and our opinions align. I like it when it does that for a change, right, David?
Yeah, it's nice.
I'm just kidding. But David, thank you for being on the show and giving us your thoughts on things. But I think it's a thumbs down for the phone call bots, and I think it's mostly thumbs down, but kind of a sideways a little bit thumbs down for the chatbot, maybe after hours on our website, or I don't know, whatever different combination of things you want to try. I would definitely test it out and be careful about losing leads. Whatever you do, measure. Phone calls come in. Where are those leads coming from? Are you losing them? And if so, how and when? But if you're just like every other corporation out there, you'll just lose leads to AI. So thank you very much. And we will talk to you next time on Inspector Toolbelt Talk.